All right, good morning to everybody on the West Coast, and to the rest of us across the nation, good afternoon. At top of the hour, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us today for our 24th installment of the Virtual Thursday training sessions. We've got a good one today. We're going to go over the Hydrant module, setting up hydrants, both the settings component and building an actual hydrant into the system, as well as using the import tool. So that'll be a good part of today's session. Those of you on the West Coast, I know you're bracing for some rain and possible mudslides, so be safe if you're joining us from California today. And then, of course, we've got the polar vortex swooping down again and freezing most of the nation. I'm sitting here in Arizona, and we're looking pretty good, at least until tomorrow when some rain moves into our area. So it's going to be a nice day, but a rainy weekend. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Got my team with me today, both Casey, she'll be able to answer any questions for you regarding training events, and I've got Sarah, who will be answering support and technical questions as we go through the session, as we do every week. But for those of you that have joined us before, thanks for continuing to participate. I see a lot of familiar names, and if this is your first event with us, thank you for joining. Hope you find it beneficial. We're going to keep these going every Thursday. So every session's a new topic. We've gone from broad module-based topics from our earlier sessions to more technical and process-oriented virtual Thursdays moving forward. So like today, it's going to be fairly broad in the Hydrants module, but we're going to hone in on some pretty good specifics. So with further ado, we'll get started. That's me. I'm your lead trainer, Tom Lewis, a battalion chief, retired from Southern Arizona, currently still a paramedic, at least for a couple more years, and graduated in 2005 from Arizona State, Sun Devils, and Fire Service Management. Been using emergency reporting for about 10 years, and I've been a trainer since the end of 2011. We've got training opportunities like we talk every week, regional training conferences, on-site training, and online training such as Virtual Thursday, but we also offer customizable training specific to your organization in a minimum of 3-hour sessions. And that's our most cost-effective, of course, but we've got some regional training conferences coming up that I'm going to show you here shortly. This is kind of our traditional poll question each week. It gives us the ability to connect with you and to address your needs. So we'll go ahead and launch that poll. And we're just asking if it's okay if we contact you for to give you more information about either hosting, attending a regional training conference, having on-site training for your agency, or virtual training for your agency. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and voting there. We'll keep that poll up for a few seconds and then move on with the session. Okay, we got some votes coming in. Keep it coming. About a third of you have voted. And we'll go for another 10 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Last chance. You could jump in and vote. I'm going to go ahead and close it. All right. Those are results. Okay. Good. We've got a pretty broad-based interest this week of the different training conferences that we have and training opportunities we have is what I should say. So great. Thank you, everybody. All right. Speaking of training, we've got the emergency reporting experience where day 1 is essentials, day 2 is integration, and day 3 is what we call our lead ER or leader. And what we talk about on Essentials is a more structured format where we go over basically a lap around the modules and we go in depth with both incidents and training. And then integration, that day 2 is all driven by user stories, not unlike what you've probably seen on our user voice site, but that day is driven exclusively by the needs of the students, and we set that up in the morning where you come up with things that you want to go over. We place it in the respective modules, and that's what we address throughout the day. It's very dynamic, very interactive. And then our last day covers a lot of administrative features, especially the administration module. That encompasses the entire morning. And then in the afternoon, you have the ability to take part in what we call a meta scrum, but it's really an introduction to how software is developed. And you'll participate in a mini version of that meta scrum where you'll discuss, debate, and then vote on the top ideas that you, the group, come up with. And then it gets sent on to our development team for consideration. in the development process. So it's a way to kind of get kind of like getting cuts in the line a little bit as far as ideas into the system. And again, that's a very dynamic, interactive session. Our last event was in South Bay, Washington, and it went extremely well. A lot of participation, a lot of good lessons learned, and the reports and ideas that they presented to us are in the process of either one already been deployed in the report section or in the process of being developed. So all in all, a fantastic event. Here's when they're coming up. We've got one in Colorado, Washington, Alabama, and New Jersey from now and through May. So if you're close to one of these, take a look at the link that Casey put up in the chat room here on GoToMeeting. Click into it and take a look and see if you want to come and register for 1, 2, or all 3 days. And there's more details on the Eventbrite site. So we'll hope to see you at one of these events. In Golden, Colorado, starting to fill up. I know Yakima's starting to fill up, and the ones in May are a little ways out, but we're going to start, putting more information out about those and getting the word out. So take a look. We'd love to see you at one of our events. All right, since we last met last week on the 20th, we've had 11 new or upgraded customers into our system. So as you can see, every week's a busy, very busy week at emergency reporting, and one of those things that keeps us busy is the addition of new customers. So if you are one of those new customers with us today, welcome. We're glad to have you as part of the emergency reporting family. As always, I like to mention our feedback site. Casey put a link to it in a chat message, feedback.emergencyreporting.com. This is the place to get information about how to use our system in addition to the other training events that we have. We're in the process of building our knowledge base. There's a lot there now, but there's going to be more every week on topics relevant to your needs in the different modules, how to get things done. And it's also the place to suggest new features. And if you go to that site, you're going to see one of the top features, which is the ability to schedule maintenance in the future. We are well on our way to getting that deployed. In fact, if you've been into the maintenance module recently, you've probably seen that the pending maintenance table looks a little different than it did before. It's taking on the look of the rest of our tables in like training 3, in occupancy, and in hydrants. We're moving that module forward and enhancing a lot of features there. So user voice, that site is really your voice for everything that we do in emergency reporting. So my recommendation is on your homepage for your browser, especially at work, bookmark emergency reporting, have another tab for this, and every time you open your browser, you'll have access to both of these pages quickly. And always, where to find the latest infos on system notifications. That's at the top of the welcome page. May have been where you registered for today's GoToMeeting session, and it's also where updates to the system's posted, and they're up for 2 weeks. So I know some of our volunteers, they may not log in as frequently as some of our career departments. If it's gone and there's no messages up there, but you knew someone was talking about, hey, I wanted to register for Virtual Thursday, or I wanted to see the latest system updates, simply click on the support button at the top right corner of the page, and it will take you to a list of the last 6 months worth of notification updates, and you can click on any of those. And remember, anything that's orange text in our system is a hyperlink or clickable text, and it will do something. So when you go to that support page, you will see all of that updates and news in orange text, and you'll be able to get up to speed really fast. I want to apologize for my voice. I've got some allergies going on. I'm feeling fine, but just going through the seasonal allergies. It's an early spring here, so thank you for your patience with me today. All right, today's objectives. We're going to go over the permission settings for hydrants. I'm going to briefly touch base on those, and if you're responsible for hydrants in your department or you're an administrator, I'm going to give you a peek at what all these different settings mean so you can determine who gets what setting in your department. We're going to talk about setting up the module, tab by tab in the settings. We'll go over districts, maintenance types, and maintenance intervals. We're going to go over manufacturers and models. And a lot of this is really to populate drop-downs specific to the hydrant module. So it's not going to take up a big chunk of our day today, but I want to show you where all of those features and settings are at. Ownerships, service responsibilities, statuses, types, and zones. And one of the things I want to mention to you when we get to that is We have had a question for the ability to assign hydrants to, say, a crew or a station if they're assigned to go test hydrants. So I'm going to show you a way you can do that here that will make it easier for you. There's a couple ways. And then one of the other requests I noticed before I doing a little research for today, I noticed on our user voice site there is a request for some of that information to appear in more detail on the system notifications on the homepage. So I'm going to show you another way to get that information there kind of quickly. But it's available. It's just not as obvious. So I want to show you that. And then we're going to wrap up with showing you how to import hydrants from a CSV template. CSV templates are our Excel files, what we call comma-separated values, and it's really an unformatted spreadsheet. There's no graphics, there's no colors, there's nothing fancy about it, but it's a table. And that table, as long as you get the format right, you can import that information into your system. And this is the only end-user import tool that we have, and it works great, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So in the event that, say, either one, you're a new customer, or you've got a couple new subdivisions that's come into your jurisdiction, and there's a whole slew of hydrants there, and the good news is you have a great relationship with your water department, and they have a whole list of, in a spreadsheet format, of the information that you'd populate by manually entering the data into the Hydrants module. Well, a little tweaking of a spreadsheet, and you can import them all in one shot. So I'm going to show you that later today. Before we move forward, I see we've got some questions. I know Sarah's all over it. And okay, very good. We've got everything's being handled there. The questions, excellent. All right. And we have one other person with us, Mark Vodopich, who's one of our support techs. He's joined us. So I don't think between the four of us, there's not a question we can't answer today. So you're in good shape, those of you that have joined us on this virtual Thursday. So thanks to the team at the office supporting me today. I really appreciate this. All right. I can't thank you enough for joining us. So let's jump right in. I'm going to close out this PowerPoint and get into the meeting today. Okay, here we are in our module. I'll make that a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to navigate on over to the Hydrant module, and what I wanted to show you quickly, this is system notifications. If you click on support, jump over to any of these updates and news, it will take you to the main page, and any of these hyperlinks here will get you up to speed or show you what we've done in the past. This one is really good, especially those of you that are really into ER. The system updates is going to give you new features, what's changed in each module, and it's just new reports. So I always like to show this. Sherry, our software tester, she puts this together, and it's just a wealth of information to keep you up to speed on our system. All right, back on over to hydrants. Okay, let's just get a quick lay of the land here on the hydrants. All right. It's our new tabular format. This is going to be kind of like the benchmark for our different modules. And why it's our benchmark is because each header you can sort ascending or descending by any of these column headers. Now, the one that's being sorted and it's sorted ascending, you can tell that because you've got the arrows here. So I'm sorting, I can see that I'm sorting by ID number, and I'm sorting ascending because the arrow is going up. I click once, it's going to sort by descending. All right, numbers first, then letters. So you can see the X's are down at the top now because I flipped the list. Well, I can also do it by alphabetically here in service. And by any of these other columns. Now, the one thing I can also drill down and filter through is this. I want to just see at a glance while I'm in the hydrant module which hydrants are out of service. Piece of cake, I've got 5 of them. These are ones with drop-down menus for you can select from a pick list. The blank fields are your ability to type in a few characters. So I want to look at hydrant number 1 or anyone like 101. I just hit 1 and it should give me all the ones that have the 1. I'm going to go to all. And yep, any hydrant that has the number 1 in its ID number will show here. Likewise, I want to see all the hydrants on Harris Avenue, but not just the ones that are 1. So be sure you go back and clear the other fields. Otherwise, it's going to be hydrant with the ID, with the number 1 in their ID and the word Harris in their address. So if I kept that, I would have only been able to get the 1 hydrant, but in reality, I've got 5 hydrants on Harris Avenue. So make use of this tool. This is a great tool here to find your hydrants very quickly. Now, if I check this box up in the upper left corner, what this does is it selects all the hydrants that are on my filtered list here. So say all the ones on Harris, I want to do a bulk operation of either printing, scheduling maintenance, creating work orders, changing the settings, or deleting them. I can do it for all 5 of those hydrants in one shot. Okay, and that's, especially when you've got a group of hydrants that you want to schedule for testing, for example, or create a work order. This is the fastest way to do it in one shot instead of having to go into it hydrant by hydrant. So I hope that makes sense, and it's a nice, easy tool. And just remember that you don't have to check all of them. You can just say you just wanted to check these 3. You can go in and individually check them. This one simply checks them all for you in one shot. Any questions on that? All right, see none. We shall move forward. I know I've said this, those of you that have been with me for all these weeks, I know I've said it, but this is one of the biggest truisms in emergency reporting is the settings button. Before you start playing with any module, you want to go into settings and learn how to set that module up from the get-go. So let's jump into there. And you'll notice this is a little different than some of our other settings in the modules in that it's not orange text like in the administration module. We've got tabs. And this is almost all of these are extremely straightforward, but I did want to touch base on when we get over to statuses, how you can use that one. Districts. Now, these particular tabs work only within the hydrant module. So if you can use districts by station, by water company, by legal jurisdiction. It's really your choice on how you want to be able to filter your hydrants, sort your hydrants by district. So here we've got some stations. We've even got a district as an example, but this is where you add them. And for adding them, super simple. You just add the district. So say we've got District 12, submit, and now it's basically allowing me to add to these districts. And when we go create an actual hydrant, I'll be able to select from this. So I'm populating drop-downs here. These drop-downs are independent from the drop-downs you set in the administration module. Maintenance types. Again, these are set by you. So anything that you or the water company or anything that might be necessary for maintaining hydrants, you can create the list here. It automatically sorts alphabetically. And again, it populates a drop-down list when you go and do a work order for the hydrant. Maintenance intervals. This allows you to automatically create work orders for selected hydrants on a regular basis. So you've got to make sure when you build this that you add these fields. So say we want one called monthly. I can type today, monthly. The maintenance type that we're going to do, all right, this is for the interval. We want to do a monthly inspection. Say, I know that's probably not realistic for hydrants, but let's go ahead and we'll call it an inspection. Interval duration is going to be monthly. Interval type, month. Alert days. On the alert days is, so if you've created all of this and you want to be alerted in the system, all right? If you put 15, like it's explaining there, if you put 15, it will create the work order on the 15th of each month if you've done it for a monthly. Okay, so I'm going to put in 15. Let's submit that. Invalid duration. So 1 because it's monthly. Okay, so the maintenance interval name I just created is called monthly. The maintenance type is an inspection. The interval duration is 1 month on the interval, so every month. and then the alert day is on the 15th. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create a work order for it, and we'll get it going. And this is the day that it will alert you. So we'll see if we can get this to show you how it creates that alert in your system notifications. Questions on that? All right, no questions. Moving on. Manufacturer, again, this is for a drop-down list. We've got probably every hydrant manufacturer known. You're going to want to focus on what's in your jurisdiction or wherever you're going to be responsible for hydrants, and simply add that. And that's when we go build a hydrant, I'll show you exactly how that plays out. It's very simple. It just allows you to assign a manufacturer. Ownership is typically the water company that owns it. So it's usually the water companies or the municipalities in your jurisdiction. Service responsibilities. So it may be in your jurisdiction that you're responsible for testing the hydrants, but you're not necessarily responsible for clearing the weeds or for replacing, caps or broken stems, things like that. You can assign and create different service responsibility groups, and it's simply adding a field, typing in that service responsibility name. So in this case, we've got Public Works, Water District, Fire Department. We can even put in manufacturer. And it just adds to another drop down. Statuses. Okay, here on statuses, you can, but you don't have to. You can set it up like this where it's in service and out of service. Another possibility here is to use this think of this as kind of a flexible field, because we have the service status. When we go back to the hydrant table, there's a service status there, and I've read and heard that, well, it's kind of the duplication of what you already have. So you could, in this case, use this as a way to assign hydrants that are to be tested by your crews by simply putting in a shift station 1. And I'll show you how that appears in the drop down when we go and create a hydrant. So this is one way of using this particular field. It gives you some flexibility because we do have the in service and out of service status, I guess, in another section. So again, you can use it for this: out of service, inactive, in service, needs repair. Really anything you want, but it's also a flex field for you to be able to assign crews that are responsible for testing it. Again, just a creative way of using this particular field. Hydrant type. Depending on the different types that you have, you might have the various classes by flow. You might have dry hydrants, wet hydrants, and you can put all of those types right here. And again, it's simply clicking on Add New Hydrant Type and entering the field there. Zones. These zones, again, you've built, if you're an administrator, you probably have built zones, maybe even for occupancies. That's exclusive to the occupancy module. The zones that are built in the administration module are zones for the incidents module. So you can create the same zones here if you want, or if you have different types of zones, you can put them in here. You can put them in by station first due. You can put them in by geographical area, homeowners associations, neighborhoods, commercial areas. It's really, or something that would match how the water company designates it. Perhaps is another way you can use the zone tab here. All right, imports I'm going to visit at the very end of our session today, so we'll come back to that. I'm going to spend some time explaining that to you. But before we move forward, any questions so far? Let's see. Looks like, yep, Sarah even answered it before I was talking about it. Chris had a question about zones in order to manage numerous hydrants, and we just covered that. Okay. Chris, did you have any more questions on zones? I know we just hit on that. If you do, go ahead and type it in. And you got it. All right, got it. I had not seen the zone field, and now I have. Excellent. All right. The question Paul has is, Is there a plan to make a uniform zone that spreads across all modules? You know, that's a good question, Paul. I think we built it to where they're kind of independent of each other, with the exception of the ones that are set up in the administration in the administration module for the incidents. But that would be if you find there's a strong need for it, instead of having to reproduce different zones. And I think we built the zones to be independent of each other, because sometimes hydrants are set up in different zones than, say, occupancies, depending on the jurisdiction. But if I would direct you to the feature request on our user voice site and put that in there. If you see there's a benefit to you, and perhaps maybe to others, even those of you that are participating today on our virtual Thursday, if Paul goes and puts that feature request there, all of you can go vote for it. And the more votes something gets, the more likely it gets the attention of our development team. So good question. Really good question there. Joyce, can we see the maintenance type screen again? Yes. Let's jump over there real quick, Joyce. Maintenance types. Okay, Joyce, if you have a mic, let me see if I can unmute you. And that way, if you've got a more specific question. So I'm going to unmute you for a second, Joyce. If you're not comfortable with it, don't worry. Just say so. We'll stick to text. Joyce, can you hear me? Joyce, are you able to hear me? Okay, she may not have a mic. All right. Okay, you're good, Joyce. Was there anything specific that you wanted to see here on the maintenance type? In adding it, it's simply creating it by clicking on Add New Maintenance Type and typing in the name of the type of maintenance that you're going to want to be on the drop-down list. Oh, just wanted to see the screen. Very good. Okay, hope that helps. All right, any other questions while we're in the hydrant module settings? All right, Joyce, excellent. Good, glad we were able to help you there. All right, let's jump out to the hydrants. All right, I want to see them all, so I'm going to clear that field, hit enter. Also, just keep in mind, when you clear a field that you've done a search for, be sure to hit enter when you're done, and it will reload the page based on the new search. And in this case, it's all of them, and it's sorted ascending by ID number. All right, so let's take a quick look at the one on Harris Avenue here, hydrant ID number 1. I'm going to do a quick run through, and then we're going to build a brand new hydrant. So this is the name and location, and if you've got an address, a known address or intersection that is geocoded in our Google Maps integration, if you have Google Maps, you'll be able to see it on the map. If you don't, it will still populate the lat long for you. And then if you want to enter it onto map page, grid and parcel numbers, it could do that. Assign a station to it, zone and district. Let's take a quick peek on how it appears on the map. And what it allows me to do here, I know you've all worked in Google Maps, I can zoom in. Viewing it in map view, I can also view it in satellite view. And what this allows me to do, I can move this hydrant. Now, to me, the best way, again, kind of my OCD tendencies, is I would love to have a list from the water company of the actual GPS coordinates. If I don't have that luxury, what you can do is visually move it by zooming in here, and you would click here on move. You pick up the hydrant and move it to where it's actually at least as best as you can. You click OK, and it would adjust the lat long automatically. It doesn't change anything else. And you go back to it and it's there. The other way to do that without having to do it in the map is to simply, if you have the lat long, is to enter it right in here. And typically you would either go out with the GPS and be on top of the hydrant and get it, or if you had a database hydrant layer, or from the water company, an actual spreadsheet that would list these, that would be the way to get your hydrants exactly where they're at. Because what happens is, if you put it on one of our other hydrants, if you just put a street address, it's going to park the hydrant typically on where that the geocode for that address is, which is typically the center of the parcel. So then you'd have to go in. You know there's a hydrant there, but it won't show up accurately on the map. So something to keep in mind as you're building this list. Details. So this is where we created all those drop downs. All right, this is where part of where you fill it. So you've got from the type, we've got all of these to choose from. Number of ports, manufacturer. Again, that's from the drop down list we created back in settings. The model. Your manufacturer, expected replacement date. Now this is all especially good tools if you're responsible for your hydrants in a big way in your organization. The color, of course, because I'm zoomed in, I won't be able to get the call out there. But the NFPA 291 color codes, you probably all know them, but you've got the light blue for flow greater than 1500, a green for 1000 to 1499, orange for 500 to 999, and then anything less than 500 is going to be a red hydrant. And I will also show you how those colors come into play with the Google Maps integration too, because when you've got the flow and the color, it's also going to show up on our map as color coded as well. Barrel size and main size, when it was installed by whom, its status. So here, the in-service and active, that works fine. You can use all of that, and that's kind of the common sense, typical where you would think of a status. But remember, let me back up just briefly. On this particular hydrant, I've also got its service. So I've got in-service here, and I've got in-service over here on status. So I noticed this on one of the feature requests for the Hydrant module by one of our customers, and it makes good sense. You can use it for the in-service status, but remember, it's here as well. So it gives you some flexibility on this one. That's really all I'm saying, and I think it's something, you can get a little more out of the system by putting additional information in. All right, so we got the details, flow tests, and we'll talk about flow tests here momentarily. Scheduled maintenance. And when you're scheduling maintenance, I'm going to go ahead and schedule a monthly. And we want the first maintenance to be on, say, tomorrow. Actually, let's do it for March. Say March 20th, requested by me. We're going to go ahead and schedule it. All right, and then when we go back out the system notifications, I'll show you where this appears. So I've created this for the next work order. I requested it on this date today. Our next work order date is going to be March 20th. So when we go out back to system notifications, I'll show you where this is going to appear. So you can see upcoming maintenance right when you log in. Work orders. We can add a work order, and here's another tool I wanted to show you here is on the work order. All right, we've got some weed clearance that we need to do because we drove by and we noticed, okay, we're coming back from a call, there's a bunch of weeds around this hydrant, we got dispatched to another call, we didn't get a chance to handle it. So we want to let the next shift know, because it's always the next shift that's going to take care of it. So call this a blocked hydrant. And requested by me, description, weed surrounding hydrant. I'm going to assign it to, and this is a kind of a preview of things to come. I can type in the names of everybody on the personnel list, and it will give me options based on the letters that I've typed. So since Brian's with us, he's one of our Lakes regional sales rep. I'm going to make sure he gets this done before he goes out and sells some more emergency reporting. So we've got the weeds, and then the resolution is here. Okay, and so when it gets done, you complete all of this information, or once it's completed. But all I need to do right now is schedule it. Now here under the description, I can also let me go ahead and save it real quick. Can also put in here station 1. We'll go ahead and save that. You can even take pictures and upload it as well so they can see exactly what you're talking about. And then what we'll do, since we've already created these work orders, I'm going to click Home. And we're going to go take a look here at Outstanding Hydrant Work Orders. So you can see I've got this one I just created, the blocked hydrant, the hydrant ID number, the date it was requested, and it's a quick way by putting in the station who is responsible for it. So you could do the same thing when you're creating work orders for hydrant testing. This would be the way, because one of our customers had requested, well, I want to be able to see who's responsible for testing it on this system notifications page. This is the way you can do it, is by putting in notes in the description. So I know at a glance, if I've set my notifications up here, and then bring it over, I can show right here outstanding work orders and out of service hydrants. I can either show details, which it is in this case, or if I choose to show summary, it will take it down to, and I always have to hit save after I do anything in changing notifications. So instead of having the table on my welcome page, I can simply click on this hyperlink and it will take me to the hydrants table and automatically sort and provide only out of service hydrants for me. So it's essentially this table condensed when I show details. If I show summary, it's only going to give me a clickable text, a hyperlink to go ahead and come back into the hydrant module to see where those hydrants that are out of service, which ones are actually out of service. All right, let's go back in here. And of course, any files and images, and we've got a nice blue capped hydrant here for hydrant number 1. All right, looks like we do have a couple questions. Brian's asking on some of these pages if it's an autosave or not. On this, I know what he's asking. So like here, we've got already scheduled maintenance back here in details. It will not autosave yet. There's going to be a standardization across our platform where there's, because modules get developed at different stages and different time periods. This is a newer one, but it does not have the autosave. So you do have to click save when you toggle away from this or click away from this module to make sure everything gets saved. Question from Paul. Is there a way to document when a particular hydrant was used and for how long and how much water was used? So for like training, right, Paul, you're going to go out and use a hydrant for training. Your water company wants to get a report on when water was used and how much and when. So what we could do, and let's see, work with me on this one and see, we could do a work order. So back in settings, all right, we could add a maintenance type called water flow for drills, training. Okay, so now I've got that. Back to my hydrants. Back to our hydrant we've been working on. Okay, our work order. Can I add one? Click water flow for drills and training. I can put in the title, what the drill was, who did it, and then I can also put in a description of what was flowed. And then you can do a completed date, same thing. And again, it's a work order, but let's say we did flow water. So we did a fire tech drill. Gallons, and then we completed it today. These aren't required fields, so these you don't have to worry about. We'll click save. We go back to that hydrant, so I've saved this. And then I can see both pending and completed work orders here. So fire attack drill flowed with 500 gallons. So it's a way to make it work for you by creating a work order called flow for training or for drills. Is that helpful? Excellent. All right. That would be one way I would do it, and then I'm just going to take a quick peek, everybody. Then we're going to jump into imports because the hour's flying by. So I can go in and see for hydrant. I can go work orders. That's incomplete. So what you could do is leave it incomplete, and then pull up a report per assignee. So say, Paul, you've done and I completed it, so it won't let me do it here. But basically, on this particular report, it would show me incomplete work orders, but it would also be able to show me how many gallons of water I flowed for the various hydrants. This is showing ones that are still pending, but I would be able to see it by individual. Let's go back over to maintenance history on these. Then I could simply see the maintenance history for the individual hydrants. So, if the water company says, because we've run into this in my jurisdiction where the water company wants to know whenever we're flowing significant water. So if you fill it in here, then you go by that, which hydrant? Is the one on the corner of First and Main. You can pull it up for an individual hydrant right here. And you got to know the number of the hydrant, but that's not hard to do because you go back and search and then you find that individual hydrant and boom, you've got the flow rate right there. So using it creatively and then going into our reports, that should be able to at least give you some decent information, Paul, for being able to let your boss or the water company know how much water has been flowed from these hydrants. That'd be the way I would do it, and that way it keeps it in the hydrant module. So, all right, let's go back. Okay. Well, let's, since we're down to the last 15 minutes or so, what I really want to show you is this, especially those of you that are responsible for managing this module. Before we move forward, is there any questions, or are there any questions? Got one from Chris. If possible, could you demonstrate how to do a maintenance history by zone? Let's take a quick peek there and see if I've got a report for that. Let's see, zone. Yes, there's outstanding work orders. So that's ones that are outstanding but not completed. Looks like we may not have an exact report for what you're asking, to do a maintenance history by zone. I can pull up outstanding work orders that are still in need to be completed. Let me run through them really quick and make sure I don't have something that allows me to, what I'm looking for is the word for zone in any of these. Individual per hydrant. That could be a report request, Chris. That could be a report request, definitely. All right. I got the hydrants. Over to settings. Okay. So on imports, this tab to the far right, on imports, you can import flow tests. So say you've got a spreadsheet or a database. A spreadsheet, it needs to be converted to a spreadsheet and into a CSV type file format. You can import flow tests. You can also import hydrants. What we're going to do today is hydrants. Let me show you what this all looks like. So this table here, we'll go back to the top box here momentarily, but this table shows you what's required on the actual spreadsheet that's needed for importing into our system. It shows you, for example, the only required field is hydrant ID. It's a text type up to 30 characters in the field, and it is required. No other field is required, but it shows you the format. So that's great. I see all the format, but how does that help me? If you click on download CSV sample, it will download an exact example of a spreadsheet with those headers. I've already downloaded it, so let me go ahead and pull that up and show you. And I've actually created one. This is what you'll see. It looks almost identical to this, except the hydrant data will be slightly different. So all of those things, I'm going to move this off to the side of the screen so you can see. In this tabular format here, all of these are my headers across the page. And remember, the one I absolutely need is hydrant ID 101, 102, 103. All right, that's the only field I absolutely have to have. Okay. So bring this out. You'll notice that I don't have any notes. I don't have address 1 and 2, street prefix, apartment. That's okay. As long as I don't exceed the number of characters allowed for each of those fields, and I have it in the right format. So especially like date, you'll see it's 2 digits for a month, slash 2 digits for the day, slash 4 digits for the year. Keep that format right, and our import tool will love you. It's finicky, so make sure you follow our spreadsheet properly, the example, and then you can put in your own data like I just did here. So I've got 3 hydrants that just got installed in District 9. It's at this address and the cross street. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually import this into our system and then go back out to the hydrant table and show you how that imported fields look. So here, it's install date. I got to make sure that's right because it converted it. It may reject it if I had changed that. Whoops. It's just particular format. Let's see. I can just do this. For time's sake, I'm just going to purge that line because I want it to import right. All right. So any questions on that spreadsheet before I minimize it? Make sure. Okay. All right. So closing the spreadsheet. I am now going to choose the file that I want to import into the system. Gives me my selection list. I've got a folder called Hydrants on my desktop, and this one I named Virtual Thursday Import Test. So I'm going to click it. I'm going to bring it into the system, and then it's not there yet. It's attached. It's like an attachment. I haven't sent it. I haven't uploaded it yet. Once I click Upload, and it's showing me because I practiced before, it says, your CSV file contains hydrants that exist in your system. I archived them, but it knows they're there. So I'm going to go ahead and overwrite it. So you can, if you get a master, say you've built a few hundred hydrants in your system and a lot of the data is kind of sketchy just because you were doing it all manually, and then you come across a great spreadsheet from your water company that has everything and it's just spot on accurate, you can overwrite. Just make sure more than anything that the ID numbers match, because if they don't, you're going to have a jumbled mess. So I'm going to go ahead and overwrite it. And this is what I love to see every time, is that it greens successfully right there. So now I have 3 brand new hydrants in my module, or in my hydrant module that I've just imported. If you're a Mac user, all right, I'm going to show you this briefly because I know most government agencies are using PCs, but if you happen to be a Mac guy like me, it's imperative that when you save the file, and thanks to Bob Burton, our Director of Support and Training, he helped figure this out. When you go to save it, because I was doing everything right, I'm saving it as a CSV file. You've got to save it as a Windows, separated value. So if you're on a Mac, save it as the extension is still CSV. It's just the way the Mac OS manages the file versus how Windows handles it. There's enough of a difference that our import tool will reject it. And I was having a heck of a time with a customer in Arizona because I said, I'm doing everything right. Why won't it work? Come to find out, that's why it wasn't working. I was on my Mac and it wanted a Windows. So just a heads up, but you can do it. Just make sure you save it like this. Okay, so how does that look when back in my hydrants? So if you remember my hydrant numbers, they were like 101 and 102. Go back to hydrants. And one of them I purposely made out of service. Let me highlight those 2 for you to see. These are the 2 hydrants I just imported. So our system knows, based on the layout of the spreadsheet, where to park it in the different fields within our system. So I had a cross street in there, so it added the cross street. You can see it at Rotor Avenue. Location 1, location 2, District 9. So let's take a peek at the detail of the hydrant. So everything that was in that spreadsheet comes on over into these fields. And if I click save, I wonder if it'll give me my lat and long. For some reason, it doesn't like this address and cross street. so it did not give me my lat and long. So I'd have to play with that to see what was causing it. I wonder if it's because of the road or avenue. Nope, something with that address in the Google geocoding doesn't like it, so it didn't give me the lat long. Details. Remember the type was wet, 3 discharges, waterous, Model X1. I had some of these other fields in there. Automatically populates here, Bellingham water. Valve location, middle of the street. I think that's all I imported, so there won't be anything else. But those first 2 tabs are where you're going to get all of that hydrant info from that spreadsheet. Flow test, I could import the flow test as well. We'll take a quick peek at that. Before we do that, let me see if we've got any other questions. So there's a few steps involved, and you've got to be very particular with that spreadsheet to make sure that you've got the format the way we need it and that you save it as a CSV file. No biggie on a Mac or on a Windows. You're good to go. Just save it as a CSV. If you're on a Mac, make sure you select Windows CSV, and you can bring in hydrants into the system. Piece of cake. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you find it helpful. Let's go back out. Got another question. All right, I know this is Mark. Great. This is a great tip. It's a good habit to download a CSV copy of any data in your module before you import, so you have a backup copy as well. And Mark, I'm glad you mentioned that because I had that file and I'm racing through it. I didn't bring it up, so I'm going to do it right now. So what Mark's mentioning is this, or Sarah, I'm not sure who that is, but I bet. Back here in hydrants, back here in the settings, over here in imports, and you know what? I'm going way ahead of myself. CSV download. So if you click this, you're going to get this. I'm going fast, I know. CSV download, and this is the file that you will get. So if you look at it, it's real similar to the table, except the data is spread out across a spreadsheet instead of in our different tabs within the system. So all my hydrant IDs look familiar. Now this was before I imported those new ones. So you can see that 101, 102 is not there because this was an export before. This was an export before I imported the brand new hydrants. So this is my entire database. So what Mark's saying, and this is good practice, is if you're doing imports, before you do an import, strongly recommend you download this, because then you can always re-import it, your original database, back into our system if there's any goofs. You can also do a bulk delete. If for instance, you have a great set of data and of all your hydrants, and your existing data is kind of it's there, it helps us, but it's not as good as what we have. You can check all, go to bulk operations, and delete everything, and then essentially wipe it clean and start from scratch with good data. But the recommendation, it's kind of the mantra is always back up your data. Whenever you're doing imports, this is the way you back up your data, is do a CSV download and save the file. So what it's automatically going to be doing, it's going to jump into my downloads folder automatically. And then what I would do is go ahead and rename it, because it's going to have I can tell this is 2014, February 27th, and then the time there. But what I would do is rename it with the date and time, easy to read, so you know that this is important. If something goes wrong on the import, I've got my file I can always restore. It's kind of like creating a restore point. You have the ability to restore your previous data in case anything goes wrong. So, Mark, thank you for that. Yep, great tips there. Outstanding. All right. Well, we're coming up about 6 minutes to the end. Go ahead and see if there's anything else I can show you here. I can show you the map view, which is always kind of fun. We'll wrap up with something really fun here on hydrants. So here on the map view, I've got hydrant color by tested flow. And these pinwheels show me I've got a cluster of 55 hydrants here. So if I click on it, I can drill down and it's going to zoom into where all my hydrants are. And the yellow means it hasn't been, it's not tested yet. Greens, blues are based on the flow testing, and it will automatically color code them and place them on the map accordingly. Let me zoom in a little tighter. You can see the hydrant. I can also toggle this on, and it will show me where my buildings are. And it's not supposed to remove my hydrants. There they are. Sometimes when they're kind of on top of each other, and that's what I was saying, is that a lot of times the hydrants we put in this demo account were put in by address, and so there's probably a structure on that address as well, so that's why they're on top of each other like that. Let me see if I can get a good example. Yeah, and then as I zoom in, it kind of doesn't let me see both of them. When I get to a certain zoom, it kind of blocks being able to see it. So let me get to a point here. Yeah, since they're the same. Interesting. Okay. So I've got to kind of back out, and it sort of doesn't like it at that point. So here, I've got a hydrant, but also behind it, I've got a building. So therein lies the challenge with having the same address without actually customizing exactly where that hydrant is. But say I want to place a new hydrant. Well, we've only got a few more minutes left, so I want to be able to answer some questions. But there's a lot of really useful tools here in the hydrant module. There's a couple things. I know I didn't go over flow tests today. A lot of that is mostly data entry, but there's also they're based on the fire flow calculations for hydrants. There is the testing calculations for hydrants. The formula is based on the information that you put in will automatically calculate the flow over there in flow tests. And let's see the last thing before we have any questions. What I do want to check on the work orders. So these are the work orders, and you can show the ones that are complete or not. Again, this is kind of a helpful tool for when you're looking for flow, wanting to get the flow. You could, on the problem, if your keyword is flowed and you use that consistently whenever you're using it consistently whenever you're flowing it for drills and training, if you click that, then you'll have a list of all your hydrants here. You can even download the CSV of just that table with everything you've flowed. So that question that we had earlier, I think this would be a great way to do it here on the work orders. And then you can even go into an advanced search and narrow it down by who it was assigned to and who completed it. And then, again, my search was flowed, so everything that was flowed, I can run the work order, and it will narrow it down. So I know on this one, it's me. And it will show just that hydrant, and it shows you the parameters up here at the top. So don't forget advanced search, and then your bulk operations, you could even print them all as well. And then when you're done doing all the drills for the month, you could complete them all in one shot too. So kind of a creative way and effective way of using this module for something other than just work on the hydrants. It's rating the flow that's done on the hydrants as well. All right, everybody. Great session. We've got some questions to answer before we wrap up. So Chris noticed 4 hydrants. Oh, I assume that one has each zone. Good observation, Chris. Let's jump back out. Okay, so here, what Chris is saying, he noticed 4 hydrants. There should only be, every hydrant will only be able to use its ID number once. So if I type in 1, I only have one hydrant with the ID of 1. Of course, these all have the 1 in them, but I can only have, I can't have conflicting IDs. In fact, every ID, it's like fingerprints. No 2 IDs are the same. All right, we are at, excuse me. Pardon me. We are at the just about the top of the hour. I will stick around. Good thing my voice lasted at least for 59 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll stick around if anybody has additional questions. But I hope this gives you a good lay of the land for the hydrant module, both on the settings, creating a hydrant, and then doing some work orders. I know the one thing I did not do for you guys, and I apologize, and we'll make it up in another session, is I wanted to show you how those work orders come up when we set it the scheduled maintenance, where we set like on the 15th of the, if it's due by the end of the month, it'll give you an alert on the 15th of the month. We'll reserve that for another session, because we'll do another one on hydrants in the future, I'm sure. So if anybody wants to see that, just shoot me an email, and I can walk you through it, send you some info, or give you a call and walk you through it at tom@emergencyreporting.com. I'll be glad to do that for you. But we're at the top of the hour, and are there any other questions before we wrap it up today? And thank you all for your participation. Really appreciate it. Hope you found it helpful. This is a really powerful module. It gives you a lot of tools, and I think one of the best things about it is that ability to import. So I want to thank Mark and Casey and Sarah for jumping in and helping out today, and for Brian for joining us, our Lakes Region sales rep, and for all the good questions everybody had today. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next week on March 6th. Next week's topic, same place, same time, is on the payroll module, how to set up and use the payroll module. And we'll go in depth on that and show you a bunch of examples. All right. With no further questions, I'll go ahead and wrap up our session for today, everybody. Thank you very much.